What happens when a comedian, famous for his razor-sharp political satire, sits across from America's sweetheart talk show host, and the conversation takes a turn no one expected? You're about to find out, because Randy Rainbow just had what might go down as the most explosive interview meltdown in daytime television history. It begins harmlessly enough. Randy is seated across from Kelly Clarkson on her colorful, welcoming set. The audience is cheerful, Kelly's trademark smile lighting up the stage, and Randy's theatrical wit in full swing. Kelly eases into the interview with what seems like an innocent question. Randy, your political parodies have become such a phenomenon, but don't you ever worry about going too far with your content? The question makes Randy shift slightly in his chair, his brows arching. Too far. Kelly, reality itself has already gone too far. All I'm doing is holding up a mirror to the absurdity. Kelly presses, her voice still light but edged with curiosity. But some would say your videos cross a line, especially when you target specific politicians so harshly. The smile slips from Randy's face. Cross a line. Kelly, comedy has always been about pushing boundaries. That's the point. Are we really going to have this conversation right now? Kelly leans forward, her warmth thinning into seriousness. I just think there's a responsibility that comes with having a platform like yours. Some of your content can be divisive. Randy's tone sharpens. Divisive, Kelly. Calling out corruption and incompetence isn't divisive. Necessary. Are you really going to sit there and lecture me about responsibility while you're hosting a show that thrives on celebrity gossip and consumer fluff? The audience murmurs, sensing tension brewing. Kelly's smile strains. I think you're misunderstanding me, Randy. No, I understand perfectly. Randy snaps back. You brought me here to promote my work, and instead you're trying to shame me for doing the very thing that made me successful. This is classic mainstream media behavior. Kelly's tone grows defensive. I'm not trying to shame you. I'm asking questions I think my audience wants to hear. Your audience, Randy fires, or your network executives. Because those aren't the same thing, Kelly, and you know it. The air in the studio thickens. Kelly tries to steady herself, her voice measured. I respect your work, Randy, I do. But don't you think there's value in finding common ground, instead of always choosing the most provocative angle? Randy lets out a bitter laugh. Common ground. When one side is actively trying to dismantle democracy, and the other wants us to just smile and compromise. That's not balance, Kelly. That's complicity. That's a pretty extreme way to look at it, she counters. Extreme? What's extreme? Randy shoots back. Is pretending both sides of every issue deserve equal weight, when they don't. What's extreme is you asking people like me to tone it down while the world is literally on fire. Kelly's composure begins to crack. I think you're being unfair. I'm trying to have a reasonable conversation. Reasonable. Randy's voice cuts like a knife. Daytime TV has become a sanitized, advertiser-approved wasteland where nobody says anything real because it might upset the sponsors. The audience falls silent. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Kelly attempts a redirect. Maybe we should move on and talk about your upcoming projects. Oh, now you want to move on. Convenient. Randy's voice drips with venom. You drag me into an interrogation about my responsibility as a creator, and when I push back, suddenly it's time to change the subject. Kelly's cheeks flush. Randy, this isn't an interrogation. I wanted an interesting discussion. Interesting for who? Randy challenges her producers. Who told you to grill me? Or your audience, who might finally want something real instead of the same, recycled fluff. Kelly takes a deep breath, clinging to professionalism. You're making assumptions about my intentions that aren't true. Am I? Because from where I sit, this feels like an ambush, dressed up as a friendly chat. You knew exactly what my work was when you booked me. So why act shocked that I have strong opinions? The interview has gone completely off the rails. Both host and guest are locked in a heated verbal duel. The studio audience frozen in place. Kelly, voice steadier but taut, tries to rein it in. My questions come from genuine curiosity, not criticism. Randy's laugh is laced with sarcasm. Genuine curiosity. Kelly, genuine curiosity would be asking about my creative process, my inspirations, my journey. Not jumping straight to whether I'm being too mean to politicians who are actively harming people. But surely you can see, Kelly pushes, that with millions of followers, people are going to question the impact of your message. Impact. Randy's voice rises. Then let's talk about the impact of normalizing authoritarianism. By treating it like just another political stance, let's talk about the impact of sanitizing serious issues until they're palatable enough for morning television. Kelly's professional smile finally falters. That's not fair, Randy. We cover serious issues all the time. Do you? Randy shoots back. Or do you skim the surface so you can check a box that says you're socially conscious? While never challenging your audience to think critically about anything, the audience squirms uncomfortably, some shifting in their seats, others lifting phones to capture the chaos unfolding. Kelly tries again. I think you're mischaracterizing what we do here. Am I? Randy leans in, his voice low but cutting. When was the last time you made someone on this show truly uncomfortable? When was the last time you asked a question a guest couldn't deflect with a rehearsed soundbite? Kelly's tone sharpens, losing its gentleness. I ask tough questions. When they're appropriate according to who? Randy fires back. Your legal team, your network executives, your advertisers. Because I promise you, none of those people care about what's actually appropriate for the times we're living in. Kelly stiffens. You don't know what conversations I have behind the scenes. Randy's eyes narrow. Behind the scenes, Kelly, that's the problem. The truth always stays behind the scenes, never here, never in front of the cameras, never where it matters most. Asterisk Kelly, that's the problem, Randy says firmly, his tone sharpening. All the real conversations happen behind the scenes, while the audience gets spoon-fed, manufactured positivity that has nothing to do with reality. Kelly inhales deeply, her composure visibly straining as she tries to take back control. Look, Randy, I understand you're passionate about your work, and I respect that. But attacking me personally isn't productive. Randy leans forward. I'm not attacking you as a person, Kelly. I'm calling out a system you've become, a very successful part of. There's a difference. But you're sitting on my show, as my guest, essentially saying everything I do is meaningless corporate propaganda. I'm saying daytime television has turned into a vehicle for avoiding real conversations about real problems. Randy shoots back. If that description fits your show, then maybe that's something worth examining. The atmosphere in the studio grows heavier. Behind the cameras, Kelly's producer waves frantically, trying to reel the moment back under control. Randy, Kelly says, her voice tighter now. I invited you here because I thought you were funny and talented, not to get a lecture on the state of media. And I came here, Randy retorts, because I thought maybe, just maybe, someone in mainstream media wanted to have a real conversation about why comedy matters in dark times. But clearly, I was wrong. Kelly's tone grows defensive, her face stiffening. You're making a lot of assumptions about me and my show that aren't true. Then prove me wrong, Randy fires back. Ask me something real. Ask me why I believe humor is one of the last defenses we have against fascism. Don't ask me to justify my existence as an artist. Kelly blinks. Fascism. Randy, don't you think that's a pretty extreme word to throw around? Randy's eyes widen, incredulous. And that's right, there is the problem. You think the word fascism is extreme, but you don't think the policies and behaviors that define fascism are extreme. That's willful blindness. Randy, I'm not blind to anything. Kelly pushes back, her tone defensive. I just think we need to be careful with inflammatory language. Inflammatory, Randy snaps. What's inflammatory is pretending that calling a spade is somehow worse than the spade itself. What's inflammatory is tone police. People who are sounding the alarm while the house is burning down around us. The audience is utterly silent now, hanging on every word of this philosophical brawl. Randy, Kelly says, her voice tight. I think you're being unfair to me, and to my audience. We care about these issues, too. Do you? Because caring and acting are two very different things. Caring is easy, it's just a feeling. Action takes risk, and risk. Randy leans in, his voice low and biting. Risk is bad for ratings. Kelly's professional veneer is cracking, her frustration starting to show. So now, you're saying everyone in mainstream media is a coward. That's not fair and it's not true. I'm saying mainstream media works inside a cage. Randy counters. The system makes real courage almost impossible. And yes, includes this show. That includes this conversation. Kelly's face hardens, her voice edged with steel. So what you're telling me is this conversation, right here, is fake or meaningless because it's happening on my show. What I'm telling you, Randy says coldly, is that we're having this conversation inside a framework designed to keep it from ever getting dangerous. We're performing authenticity instead of living it. Kelly bristles. Performing authenticity. Randy, I'm being completely genuine with you right now. Are you? Randy shoots back. Because genuine Kelly would have something real to say about the state of the world, but talk show host Kelly has to stay neutral, palatable, and brand safe. Asterisk Randy leans forward, eyes fixed on her. Which Kelly am I talking to right now? The question hangs in the air like a dare. Kelly's jaw tightens. You know what, Randy? Fine. Let me be genuine with you. I think you're being incredibly arrogant. You walk onto my show and immediately tear everything down without knowing a thing about me or what I actually believe. Randy smirks. There it is. Finally, now we're getting somewhere. So tell me, what do you believe? Kelly, not your network, not your audience. You. Kelly hesitates, weighing her words. I think the world is complicated. Reducing everything to good guys and bad guys, it makes for sharp comedy. Sure, but it doesn't solve problems. Complicated. Randy shoots back. Some things aren't complicated. Overthrowing an election, not complicated. Locking kids in cages, not complicated. Lying every time you speak, not complicated. Kelly fires back. But don't you think that black and white mindset is exactly what's dividing this country? Randy stares at her in disbelief. Are you serious? You think the problem is that people like me are too judgmental of objectively terrible behavior? That the solution is, being more understanding of cruelty and corruption. I think the solution is finding ways to bring people together instead of driving them further apart. Randy shakes his head. Kelly, you can't bring people together with fascists. There's no middle ground with people who want to erase your neighbor's right to exist. This isn't a tax policy debate. It's about human dignity. Kelly's voice rises, trembling with frustration. And that kind of rhetoric makes it impossible to have productive conversations with anyone who doesn't already agree with you. Productive conversations. Randy snaps. What exactly does a productive conversation with someone who thinks certain groups shouldn't have rights look like? Please enlighten me. It would look like trying to understand where they're coming from. Kelly insists, instead of writing them off as evil. Randy's eyes narrow. Oh, I understand perfectly where they're coming from. Fear, hatred, ignorance, understanding. That doesn't mean I have to respect it or accommodate it. Don't you think that attitude just perpetuates division? No, Kelly. What perpetuates division is pretending hatred and love are just two equally valid perspectives. What keeps the cycle alive is false equivalence, this both sides. Nonsensing the moral relativism you're defending right now. The studio is frozen, the silence punctuated only by an uneasy cough from the audience. Kelly presses on. I'm not arguing for moral relativism. I'm arguing for decency, for finding common ground. Decency. Randy's voice hardens. Decency is standing up to bullies, not empathizing with them. Decency is protecting the vulnerable, not negotiating with their oppressors. Kelly's professional mask cracks. Randy, you're twisting my words, putting positions in my mouth I never took. Because from here, it sounds like you're more worried about being polite to fascists than protecting the people they want to hurt. That's not what I said, and you know it. Then what are you saying, Kelly? Because from where I sit, it sounds like you want me to tone down my criticism so it won't scare off viewers or make your show too political. I'm saying, maybe your approach isn't as effective as you think. Randy's eyes flash with anger. Effective. My work has reached millions, given people a way to process the trauma of the worst political era in modern history. What's your approach accomplished besides keeping everyone comfortable while everything falls apart? My approach has brought joy and positivity to people in dark times. Joy and positivity. Randy laughs bitterly. There's a difference between joy and denial, between positivity and toxic optimism. Kelly suddenly stands, her voice sharp. Randy, you need to check yourself. You're being disrespectful to me, my show, and my audience. Randy rises too, matching her energy. The studio lights feel hotter now, the space between them charged. Centrist nonsense. Randy spits. You don't want to take a stand, so you hide behind neutrality. And you call me arrogant. You don't even know what I believe. Kelly's voice cracks. You're making sweeping judgments about me based on nothing. I'm making judgments based on everything you've shown me in the last 10 minutes. You've spent this whole conversation trying to get me to apologize for believing in right and wrong. I haven't asked you to apologize for anything. I've asked you to consider that maybe your way isn't the only way to create change. Randy throws up his hands. Change requires naming what's broken. Kelly not soothing everyone while it burns. Truth matters more than comfort. Kelly's voice cuts in sharp. Truth, your perspective. You present it like it's the only way to see the world. Randy glares. When it comes to human rights and democracy, yes, there is only one way. Kelly, there's only one acceptable way to see things. Randy, this isn't a matter of opinion. Kelly, everything's a matter of opinion. That's what living in a democracy means. Randy stares at her, stunned. Randy, no. Kelly, everything is not a matter of opinion. The earth is round. Gravity exists. Trying to overturn elections is wrong. Those aren't opinions, they're facts. Kelly, but how you respond to those facts, how you treat people who disagree, that's a choice. And I choose to approach with decency instead of acting like everything's on fire. Randy, but everything is on fire. I'm not screaming, Kelly, I'm using satire to cut through the lies. If that feels like screaming, maybe ask yourself why. Kelly, because it's aggressive. It divides people instead of bringing them together. Randy, good. Some people shouldn't be brought together. Not every perspective deserves a seat at the table. Kelly, and that absolutism, that's dangerous. Randy, you know what's dangerous? Giving platforms to hate and then tone policing the people who call it out. Kelly, and you know what's also dangerous? Feeding the anger. Creating content that just makes people more divided instead of pointing toward solutions. Randy, the solution is for good people to stop being polite to bad people. The solution is for people like you to stop pretending neutrality is a virtue. When one side is trying to burn democracy down, Kelly points a finger at him, her voice sharp. Kelly, you're twisting my words. Randy, no, I'm repeating them. You've spent this entire interview controlling me about tone while ignoring substance. Kelly, I was trying to have a thoughtful discussion. Randy, no, you were trying to make me admit I'm part of the problem so you could feel better about your complicity in the system. Kelly's voice cracks. Kelly, complicity. You don't know anything about my life or my values. Randy, I know what you do on camera, and that's what matters. You feed people safe, sanitized content that never challenges anyone to think. Kelly's face flushes. Kelly, that's not true and it's incredibly unfair. Randy starts gathering his things. Randy, you know what's unfair? That comedians have to be the ones telling the truth because journalists won't, and talk show hosts won't. Kelly, are you going? Randy, I'm done. This conversation just proved we live in different realities, and I'm not going to pretend both are valid. Kelly, please don't leave. We can find common ground if we just listen. Randy turns back, cold. Randy, construction requires a foundation, Kelly, and you can't build on sand. Kelly, by listening, by understanding different perspectives. Randy, I've listened, loud and clear. You think I'm too angry, too divisive, too unwilling to compromise with people who want to harm others. Message received. Kelly, that's not what I think. Randy, then what do you think? Not what your audience wants to hear, not what your network expects. What do you think about the state of the world right now? Kelly freezes, caught. The silence stretches. Cameras catch every second. Finally, she speaks softly, without conviction. Kelly, I think we need to find ways to heal our divisions. Randy shakes his head. Randy, that's not an answer. That's a talking point. And with that, he walks off set leaving Kelly standing alone under the studio lights as the audience sits in stunned silence. The cameras keep rolling, capturing every second of the most dramatic walk-off in daytime TV history.